Alright, so this is going to be a pretty short one on drum brakes. Drum brakes, in my opinion, are inferior to disc brakes. I feel like they provide inferior stopping power to disc brakes. However, they do have one advantage in that they're extremely simple. And so you don't have to worry about cracks in your hydraulic lines or sticky master cylinders or anything like that. It's just all based on lever motion. They don't really make them anymore, except on like dirt bikes and very small motorcycles. Like I know I've got a 2004 Rebel that has a rear drum brake, but most larger bikes have two discs in the front and one in the rear. This is a wheel hub and drum brake from an 81 Virago. As you can see, it just slides right in there. You got your lever here, and it hooked up something like that. And this is how it works. This is your lever, and it went off to your brake pedal. And pop it off for you. And you can see under here, you've got your brake shoes. Oops. You got your brake shoes, and they're just held together with a spring. And when you step on your brake pedal, it pulls the rod, and this rotates a little bit. And you can see how very simple it is. See, there's this little piece right here. And when you rotate the rod, that just rotates, and you can see how it pushes the shoes out. See that? And it pushes it against this surface here, and that's what provides the friction to stop your wheel. Now, it's pretty important to have fully functioning rear brakes. It's true that the rear brakes really only provide like maybe 30% of the stopping power when you're applying them in conjunction with the front brakes. However, there are times when you only apply the rear brakes. For example, if you're stopping in grass or sand or whatever, you really don't want to lock up the front wheel. So if I'm stopping in grass, I only apply my rear brakes. So it's pretty important to have them well adjusted and to have them functioning well. So we'll go into how to adjust them in a minute. Something that will happen to really old bikes is, see, this surface here has like this laminate material on it, and when it sits up against this steel for so long, rust and oxidation will get in there and will sort of seize it against here. And that's something that, I mean, if you find that you've got a really old bike that is really super hard to push, then what you might need to do is take this apart and bust this free. Just sort of, clean up with some brake cleaner or whatever, and bust it free. It's a good idea. If you're going to apply some kind of lubricant to clean this up, or brake cleaner or whatever, don't forget to wash it off afterwards, or else you're not going to have any brake stopping power, because it's going to be so slippery. So I use kerosene or gasoline to just wash it off, and then I get a good rag, and really wipe all the chemicals off here, and then it's good to go. You can inspect it by you can inspect the meat of the brake shoe just by looking at it. You definitely don't want it to get down to this part, to this metal here, or else it'll grind and it will ruin this surface here. But yeah, I mean, plenty of meat left on this one. Doesn't look too bad. So now we're going to go and look at some adjustment points on rear brake drums. Alright, so this is my 1978 Honda Matic 750, fully dressed. Very nice bike, very nice running bike, a lot of fun to ride. And it's got rear brake drums, as you can see. Now, there are typically 4 to 5 adjustment points for these rear brakes, and I will explain what each one of them does. Starting at the front, we have our brake pedal, and right here, you can see this is a really easy thing to understand, but you can unbolt this bolt here and then pop this pedal off, and then you can slide it over a tooth and pop it back on again. For example, if you're a really tall rider and you want this to sit down a little bit lower, or if you're really short or whatever, this is a good place to adjust it right here. So if you find that your brake pedal is sort of in an uncomfortable place, this is how you adjust it. The next adjustment point is that screw right in there, and I typically don't ever really bother with that one, because all it does, you see I'm pushing on the pedal here, all it does is determine how far back the pedal rests. So, I mean, you know, your personal preference as well. Another adjustment point, which I don't believe this bike has, is this rod which goes back. Sometimes it's actually two rods, and they screw into each other, and so you can lengthen it or shorten it based on, you know, based on your preference and what's up with your bike, just by screwing it back and forth. So I believe, yeah, this one's all one rod, so this one doesn't have it. But we're going to come back here. This is a really important adjustment point here. You can see this nut here, especially designed to maintain a little bit of tension on the lever. So when you pull it, I'm going to depress the brake right here. When you pull it, see how little amount of movement there is? It just goes back and forth like that. That's at rest. That's no brake being applied. That right there is full brake being applied. So there's just a little bit. So what you do to adjust this, like let's say you took it all apart, you know, to clean it or whatever, and you're trying to put it back together, just go ahead and tighten it. The way I do it is I tighten it all the way down by hand, and then I use a wrench and tighten it even more. And I tighten it to the point where it's the tightest it can be without applying the brakes. So I'll tighten it maybe 2 or 3 screws, and then I'll push the bike. And if the brakes are not on, then I'll tighten it a little bit more, and then I'll push the bike. And if the brakes aren't on, I'll tighten a little bit more. And once I start to determine that the bike is getting harder to push, or I can't push it, then I back it off a little bit, and that's that. Because what you really want is for you to be able to start applying the brake at the very tap of the brake pedal. So once you like go down like that, you want brake to be started. You don't want to have to travel all the way down like there for the brake to start applying. So you want a really feather light brake pedal. So that's how I do that. And finally, the last adjustment point is kind of like the first one. See here, you can adjust the angle of this arm by taking this bolt out and sliding it over a couple teeth. And this can be handy, you know, if like, I don't know, like let's say you stretch your bike or you chop it, you know, and you're changing the length of the wheelbase, you know, but this rod stays the same. Well, you might want to, you know, adjust it a little bit. Really, as the brake material wears, you may have to adjust this a little bit. But once you get this one, and this one where you want it, you typically don't ever really need to touch them. So that's, you know, fairly simple discussion on rear brake drums. If you guys have any questions, let me know.